This is the home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Welcome to Join This Prime with me, Samuel Kojo. In our headlines today, we begin with election 2024, where minority in parliament is accusing government of training mercenaries to foment trouble during polls.
And training of mercenaries by government operatives based at the Jubilee House to cause chaos and mayhem in the country and blame the political opposition.
The majority describes claims as untrue and reckless.
Minority says that a certain Calvin Taylor, who I believe you all know is engaged in yellow journalism, goes out there to make such huge allegations, but that substance is unfortunate, it's weird, and it's unwarranted.
Also, former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, calls for a review of Supreme Court's ruling, during which makes all crimes bailable offences.
According to the Supreme Court, the provisions under the 1992 Constitution allowed for bail for virtually every offence in Ghana. To my mind, this, is not a developmental approach and must be reconsidered.
Also, President Akufo-Addo asked rich countries to allow heavily indebted poor African countries to swap their debt with climate interventions. Now, two cities in Ghana battle to deal with rising influx of female sex workers, with Nigerians leading the pile. We'll take you to Tamale and Sekondi for conversations on the two cities, how they're dealing with this. And also, a lot more Ghanaians attempt to escape tough economic challenges as applications for American visa lottery increases.
Country is sad. So, opportunity like this, they have to grab it both hands. Else, it will skip.
Are they to have prime business, Beverly Broom? What's coming up in business?
Now, governments have been criticized for failing to take advantage of the debt service suspension initiative by the World Bank. We'll hear from an economist.
If delayed, can cause a lot of problems. If we have taken advantage of this, I believe we have been able to use that to restructure our debt, have longer term debt that we can manage.
At 8:30, Razak Musbah will join us with Prime Sports.
Well, Ashanti Gold has withdrawn their injunction application against the Ghana Football Association on the Ghana Premier League. We'll bring you details shortly.
We're live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Stay with us for details. Now, government is fighting off claims that the New Patriotic Party has brought in mercenaries who are being trained to foment trouble during the 2024 elections. Last week, ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agaga, claimed that these mercenaries are being trained by government in the Situari Forest and being handled by a police officer stationed at the Jubilee House. These allegations were repeated today in Parliament. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent has the rest of the story.
Whilst the NDC MPs did not provide any evidence to back their claims, they are calling on the international community to condemn the act while demanding a full-blown investigations into the matter.
Recruitment and training of mercenaries by government operatives based at the Jubilee House to cause chaos and mayhem in the country and blame the political opposition. Due to the seriousness of the allegations made, and coupled with the involvement of government-sponsored armed attacks in the disruption of the Ayawaso West Wagon constituency by-elections, we demand an urgent independent probe into the allegations made.
Ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agaga, also claimed there's a deeply polarized security architecture due to government packing them with party boys and girls.
The minority in Parliament feels discontented and alarmed by the politicization of the security services and the armed forces under the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led government. This unfortunate phenomenon has contributed to low morale amongst the officers and men of our armed forces and the other security services. In other words, meritocracy is no longer applied in determining who qualifies to be recruited into the security services under President Akufo-Addo's government. The grand scheme is to create a security apparatus loyal not to the state, but to the MPP government.
But responding to the claims, Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwo dismissed the accusations that government was training mercenaries ahead of the 2024 elections.
Minority says that a certain Calvin Taylor, who I believe you all know, is engaged in yellow journalism and should not be taken seriously. Huge allegations with that substance, and the opposition in parliament without any shred of evidence. No such thing is taking place. It's unfortunate, it's weird, and it's unwarranted. And it's not necessary, and it's mischievous, and it's aimed at causing confusion.
His colleague, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry, also denied claims that the MPP government has packed the security organizations with unqualified party boys and girls.
Of lack of meritocracy and whatever, as far as the police and other security is concerned. I have come to let you know that the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, before he took office, had raised issues about professionalism of the police and also set out to demonstrate that the police are not manipulated by the executive.
What is left to be seen is if the NDC MPs will raise this issue on the floor of Parliament and if government will give in to their demand of an independent investigation. For Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And the minority say assertions by Vice President Bawumia that the MPP government has built the airport in Ghana as factually inaccurate. According to Deputy Ranking Member on the Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, the airports the MPP seek to lay claim are actually projects started by erstwhile John Mahama administration.
He was there at Hubetutu saying that good news. And that they have constructed more airports than anybody in the world. Which airports? Were you not in this chamber reporting when the loan on the Tamale airport was brought here? Were you not here when the first phase was completed and John Dramani Mahama went there and oversaw the first airplane to go to Mecca? Were you not there? So if you come and you continue my work, you become better than me. Kumasi Airport, were you not there when we started? So when we started, you came and you continued. That makes you the person to have constructed. Then if you people had constructed Terminal 3, I don't know what else you would have said. They have constructed the best interchanges in the Fourth Republic. Which of them did you start? Apart from the one they are struggling in Takoradi. And the flyover in Dakaswa, those things they did in Medina. Those things they did, you remember those things they did in Medina? Huh? The footbridges. Is that what he's referring to? Or the one lane thing he did in Tamale? Were you not here when Pokwasi started? Were you not here when we got the grant to start the Tema interchange? Were you not here where Obochelvi Lamte was approved here? The only thing you have come to do is Takoradi, right? It's not even completed. They are still struggling with market cycle diary. And then you went and did some fair thing in Tamale. And you are all over the place. You have done So if you have done everything that is the best in our country, do have a future now. Because you must finance the economy in a more sustainable manner.
Now, the minority in Parliament are turning the heat on the Bank of Ghana Governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, who they say must just resign or be sacked. According to Deputy Ranking Member on the Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, Dr. Addison has been incompetent in his handling of the cedi's depreciation and inflation.
How can Dr. Addison still be the governor of the central bank? I call on Dr. Addison as a matter of urgency to exit that office and give Ghana the chance to clear the mess that he has created. Part of the problem of the exchange rate emanating from this 70 billion is unto that even the central bank itself is competing with the economy for dollars. Dr. Addison, since he assumed office, has borrowed in excess of $7 billion on the balance sheet of the Bank of Ghana and thrown those dollars at the city. Today, Dr. Addison is in trouble to find the dollars to go and pay back those loans. Some he called them bridge finance, some he called them swaps, some he called them repurchase agreement. Today, Dr. Addison is in the market looking for dollars to pay up for his own mess. That is the problem. And Dr. Addison must be sacked. Otherwise, he must have the conscience to resign as the governor of the central bank. Part of the mess that he has created in an attempt to recall those 70 billion back to the banking sector and back to the Bank of Ghana, he has had to consistently increase the policy rate. That's the only way he can recall the money. He must attract those monies back from people's homes. And so every now and then, Dr. Addison increases the policy rate just so the 70 billion can come back home. To the extent that now the government borrows on 91 days at 34%. If you're a blue chip company like Unilever, you need to pay a premium to access a loan from the bank. That will not be less than 40 billion. If you are a Kokumenu enterprise, then you should be looking at 50% to be able to borrow from the bank. Again, Dr. Addison is a key architect that is collapsing our businesses and squeezing credit in the private sector. To the extent that you now need to have a miraculous business that can give you 150% profit, so you can pay the 50% the banks are demanding and still pay your expenses and have something left. I don't know the type of legal business in Ghana that can give you that. Even the other illegal businesses, they are shrouded in secrecy, so we can't even tell the margins. But Dr. Addison is a cause of this. So Dr. Addison must go. If Dr. Addison does not go, I assure you, the effort to sack who and to remove who will come to naught.
Isaac Adongo is Deputy Ranking on the Finance Committee of Parliament. Now to other stories. Ghana has been through tough times in years past. However, in present times, it appears things have gotten worse. But it is the current economic crisis forcing people to find an escape route. For some, the idea of traveling abroad in search of greener pastures has become more appealing. They have therefore opted for the American visa lottery. Tracy Asamoah and Lois Tay visited some registration centers. This is their report, read to you.
Ghana's economic challenges are biting hard as the price of goods and services soar. To put it delicately, times are hard.
I came to do shopping for the house and we couldn't buy anything.
What were you coming to buy?
Tomatoes, pepper and onion.
And how did you find the prices?
Very difficult. Very difficult. We couldn't buy. Common broom, this one for 5 cedis. Broom. 5 cedis.
Wow.
So, from Agbogbolonshio. So going to Makola, how can you buy?
First, it wasn't like that. First, I'll fill my tank with 130 Ghana cedi, 134 Ghana cedi. But now, even to fill my tank, it will take me about 500 or something Ghana cedi to fill my tank, which is bad.
But here, under the overpass at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, some people are finding ways to escape. Their route, the American visa lottery.
I usually do it, not because of any reason or the other. It's because I just want to leave to the US, that's all. Because you know the hardship, and then, I mean, things are not going well as it used to be.
And the country is sad, so opportunity like this, there you have to grab it with both hands, else to skip. That's what I'm trying. If maybe because they say country
The attendance here says registration for this year's visa lottery has increased significantly compared to the previous years.
So it's, let's say, 1,561. That's for the past 4 weeks we have been here.
This applicant has already planned her dream life in the United States of America and will never return to the land of her birth.
No, we have, some of us, we have the plans, just that we don't have the money. Plans, no, they are drive from A to Z. So once we get there now, we know the things to do. You see, some me $100 back. So, Ghana, the only time you see me in Ghana, if I'm able to get it, either I'm being deported or maybe Wabaho. That's the only way. So come cry to me, sure, because I cry, come to me, that's so shy.
In this queue, as they wait to pen their details on a piece of paper and hope to be among the chosen for a sponsored relocation to the US, they shared why they seek to leave Ghana.
Or my way, I better or mine, may particular because you have a big human. What could you to AB will be so much to be before so cost one, so call her. Abia, you can find something for the family. You know, Avansana, are you free in a day? You as it will be at the bien where you feel be ampe. Until try or like in a farmer, never from now.
You are in your own country, yet you are suffering. You are being treated as somebody who does not even come from Ghana. So if you go to Togo and you go and suffer there, is it not better than staying in your own country, suffering?
Listening to their reasons, it is fair to say people are finding ways to escape a tough economy. For Joy News, Tracy Asamoah and Lois Tay's report read to you.
Very touching stories there. Now, the business of female sex workers is on the increase in some major cities in Ghana. Tamale, the northern regional capital, has become a prostitution hub as citizens join Nigerian ladies to engage in it for money. Joy News sources reveal that by 7 p.m., these ladies flood areas like Tamale Jubilee Park, Nagasaki, which is very close to the police regional headquarters, Victory Cinema, and the post office, which is also close to the Bank of Ghana, among many other places. To deal with this, the Northern Regional Director of the National Youth Authority, Momone Sulemana, has revealed that they plan to organize skills training for sex workers in Tamale to drive them out of the street or the city. Joining us for more on this is the Northern Regional NYA Director, Momone Sulemana. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Now, what in your research is accounting for the rise in female sex workers in the metropolis?
Thank you very much. Good evening to you and your listeners. It is indeed an alarming issue in the northern region when it comes to young people indulging in commercial sex. It's becoming light issue where you 7 o'clock p.m. they're already parading on the principal streets of Tamale. And as an authority, we identified this as a worrying issue and the need to intervene in salvaging these young people that are indulged in this very act. We started the process by engaging our youth parliament platform to interrogate the key stakeholders. I mean, the mayor of Tamale, as to what plans they have for these young people as they do this kind of job. Of course, they outline a whole lot of practical solutions that they want to use in solving this very menace. But as an authority, we have also realized that most of them are engaged in this act, not because they just want to do that, but because times are hard and they don't have any source of income or any source of income that they live on. As we have therefore decided as part of our flagship program that skills towards employment and productivity, we will identify these young people to tell us their passion-driven professions so that we engage them on master craftsman apprenticeship. At the end of the day, the authority will give them what it takes to start their own business.
But in saying they are young girls, do we know the ages of these people engaged in this business?
Yes, it will sadden you to know that some of them age between 14 to roughly 35, just the youth brackets. You know, in Ghana, per the youth policy definition, young people are those aged between 15 and 35. I can even tell you some children, I mean, because as age as 14, some of them are indulging this. So children are directly involved, not only youth.
But the 14, the people who are aged 14 are children. So why haven't enforcement agencies, you know, been able to act to keep this under control if you have children as young as 14 being involved?
Yes, the issue is quite dicey. When we engage some key stakeholders on this matter, they made it clear to us that it is a crime in Ghana, but a misdemeanor. It is not a major crime. That when they even arrest and take them to the law court, what they would do is to ask them not to indulge in that again, because it's not a major crime that charge them for major offense. That is what is happening. So it is becoming very difficult that even after arresting them, the court can only warn them not to indulge in such again. Hence, they go back to the streets and continue.
So with that experience, what would be your suggestion going forward as to how we can deal with these young children who are getting involved?
Basically, for us as an authority, the way forward is one, we intensify education on this, and secondly, providing alternative job opportunities for these young people that are indulged in this act. And that is exactly what the youth authority seeks to do by trying to engage these young people that are not skilled, and those that are also even semi-skilled, their skills can be polished up, such that some startup package is given to them to begin a decent living.
Okay. Momini Suleimana, I'm grateful that you could join us. He is the National Youth Authority chief in the Northern region. Now, in Second D, female sex workers have been operating at the seashore for years now. The Second D Takoradi Metropolitan Assembly has tried to get rid of them, but to no avail. Joining us on Zoom is the Social Welfare Coordinator for the Assembly, Constance Beidou. Thanks very much, Ma, for joining us. What is the situation of female sex workers in Second D as we speak? Kindly unmute so we can hear what you're telling us, Ma.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you now. So let's understand what the situation looks like now.
Okay, in Second Takoradi Metropolis, we are having this prostitute.
It's difficult to hear you. So if you could come close to your microphone. But yeah, we are on with Constance Beidou. She is in charge of social welfare for the Second D Takoradi Metropolitan Assembly. We want to find out from her what the situation looks like in Second D. Just recently, a fire broke out at where these people are. The Assembly has tried several times to get these people out. They haven't. But so we want to understand from you. Thanks for rejoining. What is the situation of female sex workers in Second D as we speak?
As I was saying, Second D, we have these people around the European Town. We have both children and adults. Children as young as 12 years are engaged in commercial sex work. And we also have the adults who are there. And we also have what is federally with the structure that some people have put up.
So Madam Beidou, we are struggling to really hear what you are telling us. I don't know whether if it's where you are, but it's been challenging to hear Constance Beidou there. But moving on. So let's try.
Hello.
Oh, good. So now it's clear now. So let's understand what the situation is.
Okay.
Yes, very, very clear. Yes.
Okay. Now I'm saying that we are in Second D. We also have these commercial sex workers around European Town area, both adults and children. And what I'm saying is that children as young as 12 years are engaged in this antisocial act. So we are also having this problem at the area. And what we are doing is that we are doing a lot of sensitization. Social welfare is partnering with social services staff committee at the assembly to do a lot of sensitization at the area. And we also sometimes get some of these children and reunify them with their family. But the unfortunate thing is that you reunify them and the next minute you will see them back at the place. So these are some of the challenges that we are having. And you can see that these people, like the youth director said, unskilled youth who are unskilled, who need training and other things. And the assembly is also planning to demolish the structures that serve as fertile ground for these acts. So that is what we are doing at Sekendi now.
Okay. But if we have children as young as 12 years being involved, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So if we have children as young as 12 years being involved, what are the reasons that families, I don't know if you have been able to speak to families, what are the reasons being ascribed to their involvement in this? 12-year-old, these are too young.
When you go to the family, the reasons are mainly parental issues. Parents are losing control of their children. Children find themselves in these areas because sometimes parents themselves, they push them into this act. They ask them, parents are not responsible. They are neglecting their children. That is how come when we are even able to rescue some of the children and we send them back to the parents, you find the children back to the place because of lack of parental control. Parents cannot control their children, and they are also speaking of poverty. Poverty, when you go, they said poverty, so they don't have any means to take care of their children. So the children, most children fend for themselves. Most children go and work and go to school. They are going to school and they are working. They are fending for themselves. So these are some of the contributing factors. And also peer pressure. Other children also follow their friends to the place. So these are some of the contributing factors that we are having.
Okay. So from where we are, how close are we to finding a solution to this menace?
How close
are we to finding a solution to this challenge?
The solution, some of the solutions are sensitization, which we are doing, intensive one. And also, like I said, we are rescuing children, sending them back to their parents. Parents are being counseled, and children are also being, we are counseling both the parents and the children. And also, I know that the structures there, which serves as fertile ground, the assembly is planning to demolish the structures of from the place. So if there are no structures, I think the children cannot go there. Also, adults who go for these children should know that it is a crime. It is a crime if the child has not reached the age of consent. So it is a crime. So we are doing a lot of education for both adults in the communities and other things. And you also have to know that these prostitutes, some of them are not from this country. They are from other places and they come to European town. Some of them are from other places and they come to European town. So it is not all of them who are from Sekendi. Some are even foreigners, like Nigerians and other foreign countries, to come and do the prostitution at European town.
All right. I'm grateful to you.
So we are doing a lot of sensitization as it is.
Thank you very much. Constance Bedu is in charge of social welfare at the Sekendi Takoradi Metropolitan Assembly. Now moving on. Former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, is calling for a review of Supreme Court's ruling on the Martin Pegbu versus Attorney General case, which made all crimes bailable offenses. He says the ruling opened the floodgates for the commitment of serious crimes without impunity. Professor Mike Okwe was speaking at an IEA seminar on reviewing the 1992 Constitution to secure our natural resources and the economy post Ghana's 17th IMF bailout.
In a development-oriented constitution, human rights must assume a broader posture. For example, the recent controversy over the granting of bail should be regulated by the Constitution. In the case of Martin Pegbu versus Attorney General, the Supreme Court opened the floodgates for granting bail. According to the Supreme Court of Ghana, the provisions under the 1992 Constitution allowed for bail for virtually every offense in Ghana. To my mind, this, to my mind, is not a developmental approach and must be reconsidered. Economic sabotage today, as we glaringly see with Galamsey, for example, should mean a new bail approach. Offenses which are economic and undermining the economic resources we have, including gold, oil, lithium, et al., and other recovery efforts should be clearly identified. In fact, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if we come to look at our bail granting regime, and if it is the Constitution that so widely allows bail, then we need to reconsider it. Because when you are tackling economic crime, you must seriously have the tools to apply. Granting bail is a very important aspect of human rights. Nevertheless, when it gets out of hand, you will find all manner of persons breaching the law and flouting the law. And if that happens, then of course, law cannot be used as an instrument for national development. Food security, non-dependency, processing of our basic needs, we must find a way to make these areas of economic development part and parcel of the primary law of the land.
And still to come here, President Akufo-Addo asked rich countries to allow heavily indebted poor African countries to swap their debt with climate interventions.
It's evident that with these polycrises, that it is not fit for purpose. And I also urge those who hold African debt to commit to debt for climate swap initiatives.
Welcome back from the break. Now, President Akufo-Addo has asked rich countries to allow heavily indebted poor African countries to swap their debt with climate interventions. The president has been addressing the world at this year's United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP27, in Egypt. Ghana is currently facing crippling economic crisis fueled by huge debt. The debt situation is proving to be a major stumbling block to getting an IMF deal in time. President Akufo-Addo took advantage of the COP27 stage to raise the issue with the rich world. The president did not hold back in dismissing the global financial architecture as not fit for purpose.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the government and people of the Arab Republic of Egypt, for their warmth of hospitality to the Ghanaian delegation since our arrival in this ancient historic country, and express our appreciation to the President for hosting this all-important Conference of Parties, COP27, the fifth such on African soil, which has been so well organized. Today, extreme climate occurrences such as severe precipitation and floods, as adaptation costs continue to outstrip current international public finance flows, we must, as a matter of urgency, mobilize and scale up adaptation finance inflows to ensure that vulnerable countries are able to meet their adaptation needs. It is critical in this regard that the developed world makes good its long-delayed pledge to mobilize and make available $100 billion annually to the poorer countries to assist in the fight against climate change, and commit, as agreed at COP26 in Glasgow, to doubling resources for adaptation. Furthermore, it is plain to most that a radical restructuring of the global financial architecture as proposed by the African finance ministers, to accommodate the demands of the developing world is of urgent necessity. It is evident that with these polycrises, that it is not fit for purpose. And I also urge those who hold African debt to commit to debt for climate swap initiatives. I'm telling all partners, take a better look at Africa and see her for what she is, a land of opportunities and growth. I know this may sound unrealistic, taking into consideration the dire situation most of the continent finds itself in today, in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But as far as adaptation to climate change is concerned, nothing can succeed without Africa.
Our Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is leading negotiations to get debt relief for Ghana through a climate financing arrangement. Joy News understands government is hoping to secure a HIPC-styled debt relief. President Akufo-Addo today took advantage of the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Egypt to ask rich countries to allow heavily indebted poor African countries to swap their debt with climate interventions. The finance minister has traveled with the president to oversee Ghana's negotiations. Ghana is currently facing crippling economic crisis followed by huge debt. And it is proving a major stumbling block to getting an IMF deal in time. Ghana is seeking a $3 billion bailout, but the IMF has made it clear it will not lend to the country with unsustainable debt levels. The Environmental Protection Agency is providing technical support for the negotiations. Executive Director of the EPA, Henry Kokofu, has been speaking to my colleague, Evans Mensah, about the negotiations to secure the debt relief.
Presidency at the CBA. We congregated in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania somewhere this year, and the idea cropped up that judging from the $100 billion promise that is not forthcoming in climate financing mechanisms or strategy, the suggestion had been, why don't we, the developing countries and most vulnerable countries, then on our own try to quantify the kind of investment that we may need to finance climate action programs, so that with that we would then ask the developed countries who are supposed to be doling out these climate financing or climate funds to swap them with our debt burden. That will also give debt sustainability relief to these countries, so we can finance and fund climate actions with this money. And the conversation has been going on and on. We went to New York during the UNGA and then further on to Washington. It may interest to you to note that the finance minister of Ghana chairs what we call the V20. And the V20 is the finance minister's forum for all climate vulnerable countries coming together. So he has actually given his full support to this kind of conversation.
My colleague Evans Mensah joins us live on Zoom now. Evans, you've been learning more about this debt relief strategy from some of the technical experts supporting the finance minister. Explain exactly how this could work.
So we start from the $100 billion that was pledged by the West to rich countries over a decade ago that they haven't honored over the time. And each time developing world meets the rich world at these conferences, there's always been a call on the rich world to honor that pledge. Now the strategy which Ghana is now leading is to say that if you can't honor that pledge and pay us $100 billion every year for all the damage you've inflicted on us through the overwhelming emissions that you put into the environment, then why don't you instead forgive our debt? Of course, we owe a lot of debt. They are holding a lot of African debt. Forgive that debt in lieu of the $10 billion, which has come to the negotiation table at COP27. So what will happen beyond the fact that they are factoring in the debt forgiveness? Ghana, as Mr. Kokofu explains, like other countries who would like to benefit will have to qualify, which means that you have to show that you've put in place climate change mitigation and adaptation policies that are not only reducing emissions in environment, and in some cases even absorbing CO2 from the environment, and then selling that carbon that you have saved to a country that wants to use that to offset their own carbon footprint. Now, the reason why this has become very lucrative now is, remember that the European Union countries have set themselves hard targets for reducing their own emissions ultimately by 2030 and ultimately by 2050. Because of the Ukraine war, they will most likely, some of them will miss that target unless they can offset their own footprint. They are now in Germany and in other European countries turning on their coal mines, which means that they are going to accelerate, more emissions into the environment. They can offset that by coming to countries like Ghana, to give them credit that then we exchange for cash. There is one real example that will bear fruit. The first example of this that Ghana will experience, I understand from the technical team, will come on board and on stream in March of this year, where Switzerland is going to pay Ghana significant amounts of money for reducing emissions in rice farming, for example. And so I understand that 7,000 hectares of rice farms have signed on to this initiative, and it's going to be measured in real terms. And that is going to lead to some amount of money. And the finance minister who's leading this believes in the long term, it could be a solution to our debt problem.
Okay. Now, the president today also announced the impending launch of a major climate initiative that he says will create jobs for Ghanaians. What more do we know about this initiative?
So this initiative is targeting agriculture. And so the plan is to roll out a climate resilient approach that focuses on promoting regenerative agriculture. In doing so, you get more farmers to get into the agri sector and by extension give them more jobs.
Also, the Land and Natural Resources Minister has been challenging the world to break the silo mentality in dealing with climate change issues. Did he explain what exactly he meant by that?
Now, this is a very important point that John Junapol made today. It comes on the back of the launch of what is called the Forest and Climate Leaders Partnership, which, by the way, is co-chaired by the United States of America and Ghana. So this is a big deal. And it is a UK government initiative that is in total putting in some $12.5 billion. Now, at a panel discussion this morning, Mr. Junapol made the point that this is an example of how when the world comes together and breaks the silos, you can achieve great things.
Issue of multilateralism in dealing with climate changes is one that cannot be overemphasized. The Paris Agreement itself, as you know, was born out of a broad-based consultative multilateral engagement, which resulted in the promulgation of the Paris Agreement, and which is brought about the nationally determined contributions for joint action. And so to work together is one that I believe can achieve results, and working in silos will not give us the results. First of all, it will not give us ownership. It will not engender inclusivity. It will not engender sustainability. And when you look at the agricultural commodity production system and the linkage between producer countries and consumer countries, the need for multilateralism is even more important than ever. And that is why I believe the FACT dialogue, which was mooted by the United Kingdom government, which the Ghanaian government is fully committed to, is one that is absolutely commendable and is one that we welcome wholeheartedly.
Evan, so what should we expect in the coming days?
Well, the president is just wrapping up his engagements here, but the Land and Natural Resources Minister is almost holding the mantle now in his absence, and will be doing further engagement, bilateral engagements, in keeping with his own belief of multilateralism and engaging a bit more of the world in getting support for Ghana's agenda towards being a leader when it comes to the developing world in promoting climate change initiatives.
All right, thank you very much. So that's my colleague and editor here at Joy News, Evans Mensah. Now, the strike by teachers at the basic and secondary schools will continue unabated as talks to resolve the disagreement broke down. A meeting between the aggrieved parties ended inconclusively yesterday with discussions scheduled for today. But that meeting did not happen as the Employment and Labor Relations Ministry has now written to the National Labor Commission calling for urgent intervention.
This afternoon, just as we were preparing to attend the meeting at 2 p.m., another letter came dated 8 November 2022 with the content pointing to the fact that the matter has been referred to the Labor Commission, and the Labor Commission has been invited to take action. By the content of that letter, and by letter also going to the Labor Commission, it simply means that the National Labor Commission, the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, they've declared a deadlock. And that is why the matter has been referred to the National Labor Commission. So we will be there.
Run by us, concerns of NAT, because it seems that what is being championed is the appointment of the new Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Were there other concerns prior to you calling the strike?
Yes, the National Council of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, the governing council, at its National Council meeting, issued a communique. Some of the issues raised in that particular communique has to do with the revocation of the appointment of the Director General. Also, the opposition of the organization to the contract extension of Mr. Anthony Boateng. We also spoke about the issue of the refund of that's the 44 Ghana cedi 55 pesos, which has to do with the laptop refund.
You're not returning to the classroom as it stands now. There is no hope in sight for the students, school pupils that can't get their teachers back in the class.
When we get to the Labor Commission, we will cross that particular bridge. Currently, we were at the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, and we had a mind of meeting today. And the matter has been referred to the National Labor Commission. So when we get there, we will cross.
What do you say about people that say that you are using the kids as a bargaining chip for your demands?
We will never do that. We are professionals. We are professionals. So we will never ever go to that particular.
Currently, you are on strike.
That is not the issue. That is not the issue. I started by telling you that when there are concerns, and a worker is raising it, the employer is under obligation to listen, because the labor law provides that the employer and the worker, they must keep the communication line open.
People are also saying that you are not the appointing authority, the appointer is there, and he makes that appointment.
These things are laughable. Let me explain something. You see, when you look at Article 195 carefully, take your time and look at it. Two stakeholders are mentioned there. You have the governing council, you have the president, who is the appointing authority. Then we have the councils, the governing council, whatever it is, which is also a stakeholder. Then you have the Public Services Commission. Now, when you come to the Parent Act, which has to do with the Pre-Tertiary Education Act, specifically Section 19. Section 19 provides for, say, we have the president there, we have the Ghana Education Service Council, then we have the Public Services Commission. Having mentioned this particular law, the next law to mention is the Labor Act. The Labor Act provides that the teacher union should have a collective agreement with their employer. And in that collective agreement, we negotiated for all the items there. And one of the items negotiated for is called scheme of service. And in that scheme of service, the highest rank in the scheme of service, which is in our collective agreement, is the Director General. Maybe somebody wants to tell me that the collective agreement is not a legal document.
And after we wrap up today's bulletin, there's more news on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo.